Hi, my name is Kathleen Lugerich, and I'm the Manager of Visitor Engagement and Programs for the Army Historical Foundation and your host for Army Artifacts, a new program for Army Historical Foundation members that will demonstrate that Army history can be found everywhere. Today, my guest is John D. Long, who is the Director of Education at the National D-Day Memorial in Bedford, Virginia, which is just a 2.5-hour drive west of Richmond. Today, John and I will be talking about the National D-Day Memorial and the Bedford Boys. John, thank you for speaking with me today. And to start off, I think the first question a lot of our members have on their minds is, why is the National D-Day Memorial located in Bedford, Virginia?
We get that question a lot, why the National Memorial for a great international event is in a little town like Bedford. And the answer is actually very simple. Bedford had, as far as we know, the highest per capita losses of any American community on D-Day itself. 20 men from Bedford were killed on D-Day, which from a small town, as Bedford was in 1944, was just a devastating blow.
Who are the Bedford Boys?
The Bedford Boys is a term that's come to refer to Company A of the 116th Regiment, 29th Division. They were originally National Guardsmen from this area who mustered out of the courthouse in Bedford. And in February of 1941, the Virginia National Guard was called up into regular Army service for 1 year to train. At this point, the nation is still at peace. But of course, it's a dangerous world in 1941, and President Roosevelt wanted to make sure we had National Guardsmen ready to go. So Company A, along with the rest of the 116th Regiment, mustered up to Fort Meade for training, trained all up and down the eastern seaboard, thinking they would go home in early 1942. Well, of course, in December of 1941, they were in training down in the Carolinas, began to hear about a place called Pearl Harbor, and realized we're not going home. We're in this for the duration. And so to skip ahead, they were sent to England with the 29th Division to train for the cross-channel invasion. And Company A was chosen to be some of the very first men to land on a beach codenamed Omaha. And the results were just devastating. As I said earlier, 20 men from Bedford perished probably in the first hour of the invasion.
And how did the loss of so many men affect the town?
The town was obviously devastated. Many of the telegrams notifying families of the loss of their sons, husbands, brothers came on the same day, about 6 weeks after D-Day. And it was obvious suddenly that Bedford had paid a very high price for the invasion. And it's Bedford really never forgot the loss. Everyone in town knew one of these men who had been killed. They went to school with them. They went to church with them. They knew their families. And Bedford determined that their memories would never fade away. And so when the opportunity for a National D-Day Memorial to be built came to the attention of the Bedford community leaders, they quickly jumped on it with the offer of this great space up here on top of the hill. And the National D-Day Memorial opened in 2001 with nearly 1,200 D-Day veterans in attendance.
Are the Bedford Boys buried in Bedford?
Many of the Bedford Boys were returned after the war for burial here under their home soil. Some are in Normandy American Cemetery. 2 of them, their bodies were never recovered, and so they are on the walls of the missing. But there are about 10 of them here in Bedford, most of them in one cemetery, and it's a sacred spot for many visitors who come to Bedford to be able to go to their graves and pay their respects.
What happened to some of the Bedford Boys that survived D-Day?
Many of the Bedford Boys who survived came back, of course, after their service in the Army after the war was over. They became community leaders, businessmen. A few remained still active in the National Guard. And fast forward to 2001, some of them became tour guides here at the National D-Day Memorial. And so if you had visited back in 2001, 2002, you very well may have had a D-Day veteran from the Bedford Boys unit giving you the tour. They're all gone now. Sadly, the last of the Bedford Boys from World War II passed away in 2016, but there's still a lot of their families around, and their memory remains strong.
So, what objects does the memorial have on display related to these men?
Well, right behind me is the sculpture Homage, done by Jim Brothers from Kansas, who did many of our monumental sculptures here at the memorial. And it is our tribute to the Bedford Boys. It's not a portrait of one of them, it's more of an idealized tribute to them, but it shows a soldier paying his homage, his tribute to a fallen comrade. Because, of course, right in front of them, you see the battle cross, a rifle stuck into the ground with a helmet on it where a soldier would have been buried. So it's kind of a double homage. It's our tribute to the Bedford Boys, but it's also showing one man paying tribute to a fallen comrade. We have some other artifacts in our collection related to the Bedford Boys. One of them was a young man named Frank Draper, a tech sergeant on D-Day, who had grown up in Bedford in very dire poverty during the Depression. And on D-Day, he was on a landing craft coming into Omaha Beach wearing these binoculars around his neck. Frank Draper never actually got into France. As the landing craft approached the beach, he was hit in the shoulder by artillery or shrapnel and bleeding profusely. It was clear he could not go on, and in shock, he was laid down on the deck of the landing craft while the rest of his unit went ahead. He was taken back to a troop transport to receive medical care, but it was clear that he was bleeding out. There wasn't much that could be done. A British sailor took these binoculars off of his neck and stayed with him to make him comfortable while he passed away, and then kept the binoculars for many years as a memento of D-Day. He eventually sent them back to Bedford to Frank Draper's family, and then a few years later, they donated them here to our collection. It's very poignant to know that a man had these on his neck as he was wounded on D-Day, and of course never recovered. Another item we have is a small metal cased New Testament that belonged to a Bedford boy by the name of John Skank, and he had this in his pocket when he was killed on D-Day. When his personal effects were returned to his family, this was sent back to his mother, and then his widow as well, and eventually was passed on by the family to the National D-Day Memorial. And that's, again, a very poignant thing to know that this was there on Omaha Beach, maybe giving a little comfort to John Skank in his last moments, and then bringing some comfort to the family afterwards.
So, John, you told me there's a second statue that it pays honor to the Bedford Boys.
That's true in an indirect way. One of our sculptures, also done by Jim Brothers, is an indirect tribute to the story of Raymond Hoback, one of the Bedford Boys, one of two Hoback brothers who died on D-Day. The family got the telegrams a day apart that their sons had been killed on the beach. And but a few weeks later, Mrs. Hoback, the mother of these two soldiers who'd been killed, received a package in the mail. And it was a Bible that a West Virginia soldier had found on the beach with Raymond Hoback's name in it. And he found Hoback's address and mailed it home with a very nice note that he assumed the family would want it. And so Jim Brothers, when he sculpted this, wanted, of course, to be a reminder of the costs of D-Day, because here's a man who has died on the beach. But he also, in tribute to Raymond Hoback, put a Bible falling out of his knapsack to just kind of help to tell that story. So again, Jim Brothers did not intend his sculptures to be representational of any one man, but it certainly is inspired by Raymond Hoback's story. His family is still here. One of his sisters is still living, and the family still has that Bible and cherishes it as a tribute to one of these men who died.
Now, for our members who have never been there, we're hoping to send them there. Can you describe a little bit about where you are right now?
Absolutely. I am actually in the pool. Now it's winter, so the pool is drained because, of course, it's water and it'll freeze. But normally, when in warmer weather, this would be our representation of the beach with a mock-up of a landing craft back behind me. Some of the soldiers, wading through the water. One having died on the beach, a couple more trying to cross the beach, and this is a very poignant scene for a lot of people. There's only four figures here on the beach, whereas on D-Day, 156,000 men land for the Allies. But it is still a great reminder to tell the story of what happened. During the warmer weather, you would also see jets of air shooting up to represent the bullets hitting the water as the men try to cross the beach. And the German obstacles, the hedgehogs, are there as well. So again, it's a very poignant way to tell the story of what happened on D-Day, and it's one of the most memorable parts of our memorial.
That sounds very breathtaking. When is the water in the pool?
We will refill it in March when the freeze danger has passed, and then it's full, and the water effects are on until usually after Veterans Day. Kind of depends on, of course, the forecast.
So, John, why is the story of the Bedford Boys so important to Army history?
The Bedford Boys tell a great story of not only 20 men who sacrificed themselves on D-Day, but of a community that paid a very high cost as well. Many Gold Star families back here in Bedford. And it also tells the story of National Guardsmen who had been called up into the Army. Not everyone in Company A was from Bedford, and not everyone was a pre-war National Guardsman, but many of them were. And they were the 116th Regiment was the only National Guard unit to land on D-Day on Omaha Beach. And that's something that needs to be remembered. These were citizen soldiers who were doing their duty to win the war, to defeat fascism, and to bring peace to the world. And 19 men from Company A from Bedford, one man from another company from Bedford, gave their lives to secure that victory.
How can people learn more about the Bedford Boys?
There's a book called The Bedford Boys by Alex Kershaw, which is the fullest account of what happened before, during, and after D-Day to Company A. You can also come visit our webpage to learn more, or come to Bedford and see the memorial, as well as a local museum, the Tribute Center, which is in Centertown, Bedford, and can help to tell the story as well.
What other important Army artifacts should our members be on the lookout at the D-Day Memorial?
We have a small classroom exhibit space that is open during normal visitation hours, and shows rotating exhibits of artifacts that, again, just help to tell the story not just of D-Day, but of World War II. We have a collection of medic items. For instance, the medics are some of the greatest heroes of any battle, but particularly on D-Day. We have a case we call our silent witnesses, which are items that were actually there in the battle. And as the World War II generation passes away, as the vast majority of D-Day veterans have now gone on, their artifacts remain as our silent witnesses that help tell the story. We've got an exhibit of paratrooper items. We've got exhibit of items related to the Holocaust. So again, we try to tell the big story of the war through our exhibits. And we have plans in the future for a much bigger museum that where we'll be able to tell even more of the story, show more of our artifacts, and welcome people. Even on a chilly day like this, if they didn't want to take a tour, they could come to the museum. So that's down the road, and we have a great collection of World War II artifacts to share with people and help tell these stories.
I want to thank John for being my guest today. If you'd like to learn more about the National D-Day Memorial, please visit www.dday.org. That's dday.org. And thank you for watching.